Alright guys, this game Dustborn has probably been in the news cycle far longer than it deserves to be, given the fact that there's like, I don't know, 30 people currently playing this game. But the thing is, the game studio, the developers, the media, they just won't stop going after people, and so the story itself won't go away. This goes all the way back to this article from August 26th, so not that long ago, but it feels like a lifetime ago, where they talked about how there was a developer who appeared to confirm that the game was featuring stolen assets. And again, it was this person, Thea Berg, this, SJW-looking developer, who basically said, why do you guys care if we use stolen assets? You know, what's it to you, basically? And of course, that's just more of the same crap we've seen from all these people. They all have the same look. They all have the same agenda. They all tend to have the shaved side head, the they, them pronouns, all this same crap we've seen so many times, over and over again now. Including Jess Arian, who we've talked about before, one of the writers of the game itself, who, if you go back to 2016, was writing articles about the Trump election and how there's ways to protest and fight back, essentially. And of course, this ties into the game itself being something that was spawned out of the 2016 election and the summer protests of everything else that happened back 8 years ago. So then we discovered shortly after that Red Thread Games was actually working with a development and consultation company, an investment company that essentially will represent you and get you financing for your studio or help you sell your studio. And of course, consulting on several major games, several big flops, one of which being Dustborn. Again, a game that got massive funding, not just from their own studio, but also from different organizations like the Norwegian Film Institute, as well as the Norwegian government itself, which you can of course see Grums had covered extensively, talking about how the Dustborn game used far more government money than had been previously reported. The Norwegian Film Institute funded the game for 14 million kroner, or nearly 1.4 million US dollars. This is in addition to the 150,000 euros from the Creative EU grant program. And again, people are asking themselves, why on earth would the Norwegian government be giving money to this studio to create this god-awful propaganda game that has been labeled basically like an Antifa simulator by most people who have covered it? Then it was discovered that the US government was investing in counter-disinformation video games as well. And again, I have not seen a direct line between the US government and Dustborn, but it is definitely curious how the timing of all this is happening, where essentially the US government has been exposed as contributing to counter-disinformation games, particularly ones that are an English and language pilot version of a counter-disinformation game, according to these little statistics here, these criteria from the US Embassy in the Netherlands for a pitch meeting. And again, the specifications for this 275,000 US dollars was earmarked, and it needed to produce a French version of the game as well as an English and Dutch language pilot version of a counter-disinformation game, produce one additional translation into a European, Asian, and or African language to be determined at a later date, host the game on the company's own servers, develop and implement data collection and analysis methodologies to demonstrate the project's achievement of expected results, and promote games to target audiences. This is very concerning stuff, very weird that we're seeing more and more that our world governments are involved in what, quote, disinformation or counter-disinformation video games. So again, Stuttering Craig pointed out that everyone's laughing at Norway and the EU for funding Dustborn, but a quick search shows the US also provided $275,000 of funding for a new counter-disinformation game. Again, literal government propaganda being put out there into the video game industry. Now today, we have actually had a response from the Dustborn developer Red Thread Games, again, a Norwegian indie studio that was funded by the Norwegian government and private institutes like the Norwegian Film Institute to create this absolute shit show of a game. And yet, now we are seeing them respond saying, since we first announced Dustborn, we've read your comments and listened to your feedback, hopes and wishes for the game. Over the past 4 years, our team has poured their hearts into telling a story that's deeply meaningful to us. A story about the power of words, about building a world where everyone can feel safe, about love, friendships, and robots, of course. Now, I'm going to stop right there. This game took them 4 years to make. Concord took that studio 8 years to make. These games, for the quality that's actually coming out of them, like what they're getting for the effort and time put into it, does not match the time it has taken them to create these games. They go on to say, we expected Dustborn to spark conversation and debate and looked forward to engaging with our players in a positive and constructive fashion. Unfortunately, that conversation has been drowned out by a tidal wave of hate and abuse. And I want to pause right there. The fact of the matter is, this game encourages bullying, abuse, manipulation, coercion, and they want to claim that they are receiving a tidal wave of hate and abuse because of this game. We welcome thoughtful feedback and respectful criticism. Now, again, this post was, the replies were locked. So they say they encourage thoughtful feedback and respectful criticism, when the reality is they don't want to hear anything outside of their echo chamber. We embrace discussion and debate. That's a lie. But we have zero tolerance for hate speech, harassment, and threats of any kind. Those who engage in such behavior will be removed from our community. Now, I actually have an insider on the Discord server for this game, for Dustborn, and he said that yes, there have been significant drop-offs of numbers of people within the Discord itself within the last few days. So very curious, either those are people who are leaving because they see no reason to stay, or people who are being removed by the Discord moderators themselves. To everyone else, thank you for coming on this journey with us. Your support means everything, and your constructive feedback continues to push us to learn and evolve. Together, let's continue building a world where everyone can feel valued and empowered to share their stories. So again, I pointed out that you created a game where the main character tricks police officers into ending each other's lives. Save your moral grandstanding, nobody's buying it. And of course, people have ratioed and quote tweeted the hell out of this, but Quantic Dream, the publisher of this game, who's also heavily invested in diversity, equity, and inclusion, as you'd assume, says, we want to express our heartfelt support for our partners at Red Thread Games. We stand united against hate in all its forms, and it's committed to fostering communities built on understanding and respect. Again, posted this with the replies locked. Very curious. So now what we're seeing is people like Savvy Artist, who actually played the entire game. She got 1 and 0% finishes on this game. Like, she completed things that nobody else has done on this horrible game. Pointing out that the ending of the game says words were not the weapon, but it was empathy all along. Could you please explain to my little pea brain how bullying Fred was a form of empathy when we came into her home, did everything she said we did, discovered our mother was growing opium, and then bailed after causing the cops to find the opium farm, which they just torched and then left? Could you please tell me how it was empathy to selfishly force Theo, who had done nothing to deserve our mistreatment of him, to do something that he didn't want to do? I tried to avoid this completely, but I could not. The game even made me learn how to bully in order to proceed. Again, they want to claim that they're getting hate and abuse, but this game literally encourages you to bully the other characters and NPCs in the game. Could you please tell me how it was empathy to take out a lone man in a trailer park who just cared about his tomatoes, speaking about how the government was doing mass surveillance? How was that even disinformation? I don't quite understand what story you were trying to tell, and I don't think you knew either. Supposedly this game took since 2017 to make. What did you spend all your time on? Learning how to rip off GTA 5 assets? This took tax dollars from EU and USA as well as Norwegian film funding. Why? I normally would have never cared to finish, but government-funded entertainment is important to dissect. What do you also have a game designer who frowns upon, or why do you also have a game designer who frowns upon crowdfunding? Very curious, because I remember that the game designer, again, Theo Berg, was shitting on Grumps for crowdfunding for his game. Now, very curious, on the community notes that I've seen for this Red Thread Games, statement, I found one down here where it says, not only is a note unnecessary, but there's ample evidence that the developers and people who support Dustborn being harassed over the game. If you click on what they have as evidence, it is screenshots of the Steam page for this game, where literally 90% of it is just people encouraging conversation about this game. There is no hate, there's no harassment, there's no slander. Every one of these is simply people talking about the game, good, bad, positively, negatively. Nothing that even constitutes harassment. And yet we have Kotaku out here running cover for them, talking about this, statement that Red Thread made. We've got PC Gamer out here calling out, the tidal wave of hate and abuse that's engulfed the games. And yet, no mention by these same, games media outlets about Soul Ash 2 when it was being harassed and getting review bombed on Steam by people who didn't like the response from the developer, who simply said, right now I'm not really interested in adding gay, relationships into my game. No word, no mention from these outlets about Black Myth Wukong getting review bombed on Metacritic, simply because people disagreed with the political leanings or the people that, supported this game. But of course, we'll have Inverse attacking Black Myth Wukong days after it's been released, simply because they do not like the fact that this game has garnered massive support from the game's audience themselves, from actual gamers who love these games. So I'm going to leave it right there, guys. I'm going to go live in a few minutes playing some more Black Myth Wukong. I guess this is a nice tie-in right here. If you still need a copy of it, go check out Instant Gaming. I've got my giveaway going for another 18 hours. There'll also be a link for that in the description down below. Gonna go live in a few minutes. Hope to see you guys there, and I will catch you in the next one. Alright, and if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching the video. Thank you for being here. I do have 2 channels, Minimal Effort Podcast, as well as my gaming channel. I do have a Twitch and Kick for my gaming channel. We do live streams over there occasionally, maybe once a week. And then if you are in the market for a new PC, make sure to check out Meta PCs. Click the link I have down below. Use code TBO at checkout for a special discount. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you next time.